Hi, guys. Happy Tuesday. Amanda Decker here again. This is our sixth episode of Book Club. We are going through Fork in the Road by Dr. Jen Unwin. This is the last chapter, and next week we will be interviewing Tia Reed, who is a food addiction specialist. I actually got to record that with Tia a couple of days ago, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you next week. Just so you know, today's episode is not live. I ended up having to record it a day early because I need to be home with my kiddos tomorrow afternoon. So I didn't want to get behind. I wanted to get this information out there. You can still post comments and I will still come in and kind of comment on those and make suggestions and things if it's something that we need to answer, or if it's something that you find from today's episode that you want to do a follow-up episode on to get more information. So today, chapter 6 is called Slips, Trips, and Falls, out of Fork in the Road with Dr. Jen Unwin. And it starts with saying the cornerstone of recovery is developing and sustaining new habits of nutrition and other behaviors that help balance your brain chemistry over time. So it takes time to really embed this way of living so that it feels natural and becomes who you are for life. She compares it earlier in the book to brushing your teeth. When you first start brushing your teeth, this is a new habit. It's not something you do routinely. And then after you do it time and time again, guess what? It just becomes part of you, part of your daily routine. And this way of eating, this way of living, carbohydrate-free, sugar-free, it takes time. And it says the reward system is what drives us to behave. And so it takes time to retrain that reward system to want to crave newer, healthier things and not necessarily the other things. For carbohydrates, she points out, for carbohydrate addicts, don't put your faith in willpower, because when you're addicted, it doesn't matter how determined, how headstrong you are to succeed. You have to treat it like an illness, like an addiction illness, and completely abstain. And your willpower oftentimes is just not going to be enough. You can't just want to be better. I mean, that's important to do that, but that's not going to be the end, because, last week we talked about the hormones that control this and how the hormones that control addiction and appetite and drive us to eat, they kick in before you even put that first bite in your mouth. So the important thing to note and remember is that for addiction, people who struggle with addiction, moderating is impossible. We can't take holidays off our eating plans. We can't have cheat meals, because when we do, that leads to getting off track and it leads to going down that cycle of addiction. So page 124, Bitten says, every morning I tell myself, no matter what comes my way, today I will stick to my food plan. And that's so important. It's take each day at a time. You're not thinking about the rest of your life yet. We're thinking about the next meal, the next bite. We're thinking about just today. Let's make today food free, or drug foods free. That's a great way to put it. Let's go down to the bottom of page 124, the highlighted sentence. The primitive reward center in our brain does its job at a very basic survival level and will always beat your logical frontal lobes. So your primitive brain is always going to drive you to want to eat those addictive substances. That's why we can't moderate, because you're addicted. That little primitive part of your brain is always going to tell you to eat more and more and more. And it's always going to outbeat that logical one that's saying, no, that's not good for us. I don't really want that. The primitive brain is always going to beat that out. So that's why moderation, it can't be done. Did you guys like the analogy on the page of 125 at the top? It says, imagine you're riding an elephant. As the rider, you may be able to make it go left or right if it has been trained, but so many factors other than the rider may affect the behavior of that elephant. Is it hungry? Is it frightened? Or is it in a bad mood? So often our conscious mind is like that rider trying to control an elephant. This helps explain why you can't always think your way out of cravings or a relapse. Your primitive brain just thunders in. So it just comes in and it's going by storm. So just know that you have to make changes to help that primitive brain retrain itself, and staying in the same cycle that you have been and trying to just do better at it is not going to work. Let's go to George's statement on page 125. I think it can be helpful to define what food sobriety means for you. For me and many of my patients, food sobriety is feeling a state of mind in which we are free from food preoccupation and feel in control of our food choices. So, in other words, that food noise that's in your head quietens down. That's when you feel sobriety kicking in. Achieving and maintaining that peaceful, strong, resilient state of mind may require different rules for different people. So, for some people, that may be keeping the carbs extremely low. Other people, that may just be eating whole foods and not eating anything processed. Some people, that is a true carnivore diet. If they're including any carbohydrate in their diet, anything outside of the basic needs that their body needs to survive, that primitive brain is kicking in and they can't control it. So, other people, your rules may be not going to certain places. You may not be able to drive past that McDonald's. You may not be able to eat out at certain restaurants. You may have to avoid certain food triggers. So it may be the macronutrient distribution, protein, fat, carbohydrate that you have in your food rules. It may be other things like places. And also for some people, that time restriction, they know that these certain hours are the hardest for them not to eat. So they have, or the hardest for them to stick to their food plan. So they may have to avoid eating at all during those hours. Let's go to page 126. And we start going through the different places and environment that can trip us up. So home, and they say that home is where you probably have the most problems with addictive eating. Home is where we go to relax. It's where we go and we can let our guard down, or we're supposed to be able to let our guard down. And so it's just so easy to maybe slip into those old habits back when we've let our guard down. You may be good when you're at home or at work or you're somewhere else, but when you're at home and you're by yourself or home around other things, it may not be as easy. So they suggest removing all your trigger foods from the home. And I'm going to read this paragraph here because I really like it. If you can't get them all out of the house because others still want them, make sure they're out of sight. Ask family members to please indulge in their chocolate habit out of your eye line, at least for a few weeks. Make others responsible for replenishing their own food stores of these foods, so that you're not the one buying them. They're buying them, so you're not seeing them. If they can have their own cabinet and you can have your own cabinet and you never look in that cabinet. I've had some ladies ask their husbands to only eat those foods in their man room or their man cave or where they watch TV, and the ladies go elsewhere. Or the ladies might have their place where they go and do arts and crafts while their husbands are eating foods that are not good for them. Another trick we like to give people here is if the other people in your home are not willing to give up all of these foods that trigger you, maybe they can at least switch types of foods. Like I use the example of myself all the time, Rocky Road ice cream. I have a sweet tooth for Rocky Road ice cream, so we don't bring Rocky Road ice cream in the house. But everybody else there loves mint chocolate chip, and I don't really care for mint chocolate chip. So that one's safe coming in there. So maybe they can swap things out. So when you're shopping, and I see this all the time because, I'm looking in your carts when I'm at the grocery store. When out shopping, you don't want to have the typical carb addict's excuse of, I'm just buying these for the kids. Who wants to make their kids into future carb addicts anyways? So one, remember, like we talked about, we only get one chance to make our kids healthy and this is it. But two, when we're just saying, oh, this is just for the kids and acting like we're never going to have a bite of it, we're just telling ourselves and everybody else lies. So tips that they have is don't go shopping hungry. And then also have everything ready for your evening meal. Maybe use slow cookers and things. So planning. They also suggested maybe doing online food deliveries like ClickList or the Walmart list, because then you're not having to see and be tempted. The next environment is work. And they say, unfortunately, most work environments have become increasingly hazardous for carb addicts. That is very true. Everywhere you go, there's food and treats. Everybody's bringing them in to share. It's always someone's birthday or we're celebrating something. They say that preparation is the key. Make sure you take plenty of nutritious foods with work. Maybe have 2 meals at work in case you end up eating 2 meals there. Bring those boxed meals. And they said a bonus to this is remember how much money that you're going to be saving when you're eating one good quality foods, but you're paying for it and preparing it yourself instead of asking someone else to prepare it for you. And then they said, explain to your colleagues that you're trying to eat well and be ready for the carb pushers. People are going to want to push this on you, and you're going to have to stand up for yourself. So be prepared for it, to say, no, thank you. Also be prepared to stand up for yourself and say, all right, we're not going to keep the donuts on the counter here where we all can see them. They're going to the break room. And if you want one, they're there in the break room. They're not up here with us. So, going to restaurants is another place that can trip people up. They make the suggestion of going online ahead of time and looking at the menu, deciding what you're going to eat before you go, so that when you go, you can immediately tell the waitress or waiter and not have to look at the menu and be tempted by other things. Most places will offer an option of a meat and a veggie. You may have to tell them to leave off the rice or leave off the potato, but most of them do offer that option of just the meat and the veggie. And if you're asking for no potato, don't hesitate to ask for extra of that non-starchy veggie, whether it's asparagus or a side salad or whatnot. Go ahead and ask for it. She makes a very good point at the bottom of 127. Look out for sauces. Sometimes they have sugar in them. And one thing they do is if they're asking them to hold the sauce, they ask for extra butter so they can get kind of that creamy texture to their meats and whatnots that they're eating. I'll add to that. I second it because I tried to go eat at Panda Express one time and I went and looked up the menu ahead of time. Every single sauce there had wheat and gluten in it. That's something I avoid in my life. And so there's nothing I can eat at Panda Express except for the steamed vegetables by themselves. And even them don't say gluten free out beside it. So you got to read, you got to know. They also suggested try not to go out hungry. So maybe have a snack or a small meal ahead of time so that when you get to the restaurant, you're not famished looking to eat everything. And as soon as the rolls show up, you're popping them in your mouth. So page 128. Anna's tip is she likes to go to restaurants that serve breakfast because she finds breakfast is always super easy to stick to, very high in protein, very satiating. Dave says only go if you're prepared. It's okay to avoid going to a restaurant until you know that you're prepared and ready to do that. He also suggested keeping a list of food allergies so you can put sugar and gluten and other things on there. He says addiction, after all, is an allergy. If you eat it, bad things are going to happen to you. Georgia says if trigger foods will be present, eat something beforehand. So don't go into that place hungry. And then down at the bottom of her statement, it feels right. If it feels right, share your food addiction challenges with friends and family so they can support you to make good choices. Kind of having that buddy system. And if they're truly your good friends and family, then they're going to understand and they're going to want to help you through this. The next location that can be kind of a place to get tricky is friends' houses. And they think this is perhaps the trickiest social situation because you don't want to offend anyone when you're going to their home. But they do point out if they are good friends, it's a good idea to explain to them what you're doing beforehand and ask what they will be cooking. Offer to bring extra food of your own. Offer to bring your own meal and just to share the time together, making it more about that conversation and the memories you're making instead of the food that you're eating. Explain up front, hey, I'm not going to have dessert. Can you please not offer it to me because I'm not going to have it. I'm trying to avoid sugar. And then they also suggest bringing sparkling water because it makes you feel fancy and refreshed without having alcohol or a sugary drink there. So bring in your own water. I'm not going to read Anna's statement on page 129, but I do want to point out and summarize that she's saying, make it about the people. Learn about them, learn about their lives, make it about the conversation, make it about the memories, not about the food you're going to consume. So with Miss Bitten, her comment, she says she brings her own food, and if she has guests, she cooks her regular keto food. And you know what? Nobody complains or says they don't like it or anything otherwise. They eat it and go on. Page 130, birthdays. And I see birthdays trip people up all the time. They're doing good. And they say, oh, I'm going to have one piece of my favorite cake on my birthday and that'll be it. Occasionally people can get away with that, but not if you're a food addict. So learn ways to treat yourself that's not food related. Have that big, wonderful, savory meal with a big omelet of bacon and eggs and mushrooms or something like that. Treat yourself to a spa day. It doesn't have to be food and cake we celebrate with. It can be an activity that we celebrate with. But more than that, it's the memories. It's the memories you're creating on that birthday. Hey, we're celebrating that we've lived another year and we've got more time with the people around us. Let's stop taking minutes off of our lives by eating these things that are bad for us. Bitten's statement on page 130, if I had another deadly illness and had to take medication daily, and she's grateful she doesn't have to, I would not skip medication just because it's a holiday or a birthday. That's her thinking. So if you have the addiction illness, you don't skip and go off your treatment plan just because it's your birthday. You still have to treat the illness. Christmas. And we just happen to be in February. It's Valentine's Day week that we're doing this episode. So another holiday there. But Christmas is probably the biggest single challenge. And, I see this a lot. A lot of times people get through Thanksgiving without issue, and then Christmas comes along and we're derailed and off track. She said, I once let myself eat everything I wanted on Christmas Day, telling myself it was only one day. And then I didn't get back into recovery until the following May. If you're an addict, it's never just one day. It's never just one meal. And that's something to realize. So they changed their Christmas holiday tradition. Now they sit around the campfire and play games and listen to music and chat and tell stories. It isn't the sugar that makes the occasion special. It's the company, it's the people, it's those relationships there. Holidays. Now, when they're saying holidays on page 132, they're not meaning Christmas that we just talked about. They're talking about vacation. Remember, this book is written by someone who is in England, and their language is just a little bit different than ours. So vacations. And she points out, Jen says she used to diet before going on vacation, try to get down to that weight. We're trying to get that beach body, get the bikini body on. And then she would nearly always come home having put on all of that weight, if not more. It was as if overindulging in carbs and alcohol was the only way to have fun and relax. But what she found is that she didn't really have that much fun that way. She felt bloated. She felt nasty. Didn't enjoy the next day as much as if she stayed food sober. Now she has just as much fun and feels better when sticking to her meal plan. So she can enjoy going on long walks on the beach and not feeling tired from it. She can enjoy not feeling bloated and being able to wear the clothes that she brought on vacation at the end of vacation, that kind of thing. She also challenges you to get plenty of activity during vacation time. And that's awesome. You can enjoy vacation more because you can go and see and do and not just have to sit and be sedentary. Look at Anna's comments on the bottom of page 132. She mentions being on the road, that road travel, and she packs hard-boiled eggs, or she gets them at convenience stores. And she also finds things like cheese sticks, sugar-free jerky, pork rinds, and dill pickles are good things to pack for car rides to stay on track. Because there's something about getting in the car and driving for hours and hours that makes you hungry and want to eat more. So be prepared for that. Let's talk about loved ones and carb pushers on the top of page 133. Now, hopefully, your family is going to be anxious to support you in getting food freedom. However, it's possible that your loved ones may not understand how serious and difficult this problem is for you. So even if you ask for help, they may be part of the problem, not part of the solution. But we do find if you are directly asking, you're sitting down and not saying, hey, I'm trying to do this. If you're saying, I need your help, I cannot succeed without you, that changes the conversation and makes people feel a little bit more on board. So middle of that page, there is absolutely no doubt that you will encounter people who either genuinely believe they can't thrive without sugar and refined carbohydrates, or who have their own food issues with food addiction, so can't be comfortable around people who've given it up. So like they're seeing you make changes, they identify and know that they have a problem, and it makes them feel uncomfortable because they're not ready to address that in their own life. It's also difficult for people who can moderate carb intake to understand that we can't. They don't understand why you can't just have it just this one time. They'll tempt you and undermine you with just one won't hurt. Don't lose any more weight. You're skinny enough. I made it especially for you. It's your favorite. You look like you need some energy. Here, eat this. Or, all that meat and fat is killing you. Really? It made me healthier. You're losing weight and feeling better, and all your labs are looking better. I'm not sure how it's killing you. It's actually saving you. They'll give you the gift of chocolate on your birthday or leave cupcakes on your desk. They're going to be there, and we have to be prepared how to deal with them. You need strategies and answers ready on the spur of the moment. And on the page 133, she lists some of those, and it's kind of one of those, oh, how sweet of you. It looks amazing, but I'm going to pass today. I've just eaten. Or I love sugar, but it doesn't love me, so I'm going to have to refuse. Thank you, though. And over time, people generally learn and don't give you those things, or they change how they show you love. Moving on to page 134, if someone persists in offering sweet or high-carb foods or bringing them to you, it may be time for a bigger conversation about addiction. That may be hard to have. But you may have to sit down and explain to them and get into it and see if they really are struggling too and see how you can help them. Because when one person changes, it challenges others, and you'll see that. It challenges them to want to change. Anna says, reminding us again, enjoy the company. Food has wrongly become an entertainment industry. So what we're doing should not be about the food we're eating, but the people that we're spending it. Now let's talk about those crazy cravings, because cravings can hit anytime, especially in the early days. And they list 7 options to try to deal with that. So one is just talking to yourself, internalizing it, or saying it out loud. Oh, I'm really craving. I wonder if it's because I'm tired, upset, whatnot. Having a hot or a cold drink, remember that can change the hormonal response to the food. Take a short walk or do a quick set of sit ups. So I call them exercise snacks, gives you a quick hit of endorphin to get going and kind of suppress those other hormones. If you're hungry, eat a meal based on protein and fat. Protein satiates the brain, calms it down. Say each time I resist this craving, I'm rewiring my brain. So you're telling yourself, I'm saying no because I'm rewiring my brain. I want to be different. I am living different. Call somebody, message somebody, get that conversation going, get that support person going, and make sure your home environment is trigger food free. Your home has to be the safe place for you either to not eat or to eat. Getting back on track, because going off course is part of recovery. Progress, not perfection. We're not going to be perfect all the time. If you find yourself eating sugar and carbohydrates or other problem foods again, it's time to reflect on what happened. Start with thinking about what led up to the relapse and how you would handle it differently the next time. The last thing you need to do is beat yourself up. You can't change those decisions. They're in the past. The only thing we can change is the future. So let's start thinking about how do we avoid that the next time. Something to consider is even things like fruit, cheese, and nuts. Too much of a good thing may be a trigger for you. And if nuts and cheese and fruits are triggers for you, they may be something that you have to avoid. So just because something's a good food doesn't mean it's good for you. So start changing your brain there a little bit. Also, take time to reflect on how eating those things and getting off track made you feel physically. And if they made you feel, ugh, then that may be a good reason of, all right, I should handle this different next time and make a plan for handling it next time. Don't wait for Monday morning. You're never going to get back to square one if you do that. One day at a time, you haven't failed until you stop trying. So, with the very next swallow, if you get off track, the very next swallow you put in your mouth, whether it is a drink or a food, you get back on track with that very next one. And remember, the only way you fail truly is when you stop trying. Okay, as we're coming up near the end of this one. So 136, Anna, giving up is failure. Relapse is an opportunity to learn perseverance, not true failure. Successful people always fail because they try. People who don't try can't fail, but they also can't succeed. Miss Georgia at the bottom of hers. When I do either unintentionally or intentionally stray from this plan, I have found that fasting the next day until I'm solidly in ketosis again to be a powerful recovery strategy. That's a mouthful for me. That prevents single day relapse from lasting many, many days. So she noticed I went off track for a day. I'm going to fast, kicks me back into ketosis. That food noise quiets down and she gets back on track. But I think the other thing to point out from her, and I didn't read the top part of her thing, is that what works for you in the beginning of your food sobriety journey may not work for you years down the road. It may have to change and be altered a little bit. So be mindful of that and be flexible with it. For Michael, I gained weight when my brother was dying after an unexpected illness, and then later when my mom was dying of dementia. He got it back into drinking. He slipped back into other things. So it started with food and then it went back into alcohol. But he found fasting was also another good tool for him. But he had to start small. He couldn't start by just doing a big 24-hour fast. He started with 18 hours and then 24 hours and then 36 hours of fasting. But he also tied that with a memory. I'm going to fast in memory of them. I'm going to take care of myself in memory of them. And when I get that urge to eat, I'm going to think of happy memories with them. And I love that he redirected that pain spot that led him to fall off the wagon, so to say, into a place of healing. And I highly encourage that, connecting those two. Page 137, I only underlined one part of a sentence, and that was progress, not perfection. That is something you are going to hear from us over and over and over again. We can never be perfect, but we can always make progress. Okay, 138. Middle of that first paragraph at the top of the page. It's great to get advice and guidance from those walking the same path, especially if they are further ahead. Those people further into recovery are just like us, and their success can give us hope for what we too can achieve. So community is important, and there's a lot of online support communities for food addiction, and I highly recommend you look into those. The back of this book has multiple resources out there with online communities, and I highly recommend those. Maybe one day we'll have our own community here at DMA Weight and Wellness, like a small group support. One day at a time, right? Okay, with Anna, one of the biggest ways I've seen the disease trick people is by speaking to them in a little soft voice inside their head that sounds just like them and whispers, "You're better now. You can relax a little bit. You have control. Go ahead and take that one tiny taste. It won't kill you. Listen, one bite is too many, and 1,000 is never enough. The only way to recovery is to stop and stay stopped permanently." 139. One way to help yourself become more honest with yourself is to inventory your past experience. Where did I go? What did I write? Where did I go when people ask about cheat meals? Oh, this is where I go when people ask about cheat meals. So if you are, sorry, I didn't know my own notes that I put down there for myself. If you're someone who's asking about a cheat meal, where I like to go is, how has that worked for you in the past on any other nutrition plan? If you were doing a low calorie or low fat or a low carb in the past, or any just healthy eating plan, and you allow a cheat meal, how does that benefit you long term? Did it help you in that moment, or did it lead to the next cheat meal? And did it lead you to maybe include more cheat meals? And did you eventually fall off the wagon? Sobriety is not a good thing. Let's skip down kind of to the bottom of page 139, second to last paragraph. My best advice is not to eat your trigger foods no matter what. So no matter what, a trigger is a trigger. We don't eat it. I don't eat Snicker. I don't eat Baby Ruth. I don't eat Rocky Road ice cream. Those are definitely trigger foods for me. I cannot eat them. So they stay off my plate no matter what. I don't eat them. Very last paragraph. Don't let a temporary feeling rob you of the benefits of recovery. The freedom you have worked so hard to achieve has given you a life free of obsession and compulsion. It's a life worth living. Once in a while, we have all had to white knuckle it, pick up the phone and call for help, and hang on until the desire to eat something off our trigger food free plan vanishes. And it always does vanish. If I can stick to my plan until bedtime, I know you can too. All right, guys. I hope this book has been eye-opening for some of you. I hope it has given you hope in knowing that it can get better and it will get better. Understanding the disease process is a very helpful thing. Next week, we're going to be displaying that interview with Tia Reed. It's a great one. Check in and listen to that one. And we've got a big announcement at the end of that one as part of that interview. So tune in and check for that. Until then, if you have comments, please put them out there. I will be responding to them throughout the week. And there's only 2 days left to buy Nourish tickets, ladies. So if you want in on Nourish, get your tickets now. Have a great one. Until next time.